Welcome back to the I Am Passionate podcast. I hope you all are doing well. So, last week I didn't do an episode just because some of the things I could have talked about, aka in the NFL, I didn't really want to talk about them because, once the NFL season comes back, I need to, do my research in the way that, I can improve the podcast for the NFL season. But something else I've talked about a lot on the podcast that people have enjoyed is anime. And a few episodes back, I made a hot takes episode in which I figured, why not? Let's come up with some of my anime hot takes and, let you all react to them. Now, so first, I'm going to read off of my hot takes. And then I'm going to read off some hot takes that I saw, on the internet. So obviously, the ones of my hot takes, I've seen the anime all the way through. And then in regards to the ones on the internet, some of those I have not seen, at all or on all the way through. So I cannot react to those. So I'm going to take this in a way that, like, direction wise, that I do not think you all are going to expect. And by you all, I'm mostly referring to my brother and Kevin. First, the game, Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. I do not think it was a bad game. I believe the player base made the game seem a lot worse than it actually is. Is Sparking Zero a perfect game? No, it is not. Whether it's from a gameplay mechanic system or not, because Dragon Ball is not really a balanced sort of thing. Like, there are a lot of potential mismatches you can get, whether you're playing with your friends or you're playing online. For example, if you're going to play as any form of, say, adult Goku, and then say you're going to go against Chansu, despite the memes, Goku wins that fight pretty easily, despite, the idea of Goku doing Goku things and, sometimes he gets caught off guard way too easily. But Goku, he's a lot stronger than Chansu. He's a lot stronger, or Goku is a lot stronger than some of the people at the beginning of the series, whether it's referring to, like Raditz, Nappa, or even when Goku was actually a kid. The game is not supposed to be balanced, but the player base, I'm not one to play a lot of games online. I'm not. In a game like Sparking Zero, I knew if I did not get that game day one, I would not be able to play it online because a lot you would run into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's, Hercule was a little bit crazy. Yajirobe popping those sensu beans like he's eating freaking jelly beans. That was overpowered. And, it's just insane. And, they just dropped. Actually, I don't even think they have dropped. They dropped Dragon Ball Daima, specifically Goku in his, kid appearance, and Vegeta in his kid appearance. And yet, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, the day of this recording is May 21st. May 22nd, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, a game that's been out for a decade, is going to have something in the game that Sparking Zero does not, and that is the Super Saiyan 4 that was introduced in Dragon Ball Daima. Which, it's crazy that Xenoverse is still making content. It really, really is. I'm not, like, I love Xenoverse. I think it was a great game. Um, but yeah, no, back to Sparking Zero. Just a lot of the players are playing with the same characters, and also there was a problem with people who are quitting. Like, I could be playing somebody, let's just say it's Teen Gohan, which was my favorite character to use in Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and this game when I play against my friends. Um, and let's say if I'm playing against them in a ranked match, and let's just say I win, and if they were to quit before this final, I'm not getting any experience. It's basically just a waste of my time. And so I think for taking the game at what it is, I think the game is actually a good game. If anything, I'll definitely say that I overhyped it to the point where I was going to say it was going to get Game of the Year. I didn't think it was going to practically be a dead game as quickly as it became one. I really also did like the story mode where, you're playing some of the key moments with certain characters. Like you're not playing, going from Radis all the way to Jiren, which even though that I would not have been opposed to that, it was a nice spin. And there's other ways to unlock, make kind of change up the story a little bit, which I thought that was a nice touch. And that's coming from somebody who plays a lot of games offline. Um, so going into the next one, My Hero Academia, or Academia, however you want to say it. For most of the people who say the show is bad because Deku is a crybaby, I would bet that they have not watched the show past season one. And even in season one, yes, Deku was a there is a difference between somebody being a, like, complaining, whining versus crying. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Being like the complaining type, it's definitely annoying. But you've got to leave room for character development. Like, you got to think, how many animes where the main character at the beginning of the show completely different than, from season 1 of a respective show to season 5? You got to give the characters time to grow, not just as people, like, themselves and the worlds that they exist in, but like as the show itself. Like, it is completely understandable for Deku to have been, the way he was at the beginning. I'm going to describe the beginning very vaguely, just, for those of you who have not seen the show, you can go watch it. But essentially, My Hero, society where people have a bunch of quirks, aka superpowers. 80% of society has a superpower, but there are 20% who do not. And, Deku pretty much, in this first season, basically the equivalent of a freshman in high school. And so, unfortunately, he does not have a power. But, plot and other things kind of step in, and he can go live out his dream of being a hero, which he had was pretty close, if not had given up on becoming a pro hero. Which, again, that is my vague description, just because a lot of you I know have not seen the anime, so I'm not going to dive on into it, especially since later this year, the anime is coming to a close. Um, so moving on to my next one, Dragon Ball Z. This might be my hottest take on here. About Dragon Ball Z. I do not think Goku is as bad of a father as some make him out to be. I believe there are other fathers in anime that are just like, why? Like, I haven't read the manga for it, but Hunter x Hunter, Jing Freaks, Gon's dad. I I would argue that he is worse than Goku from a manner of speaking because he just flat out practically abandoned Gon. At least Goku was in the lives of his children for a decent amount of time. Now I get it. There are some things about Hunter x Hunter that I don't know quite yet. And so my opinion can gladly change. But from at least if you'd only seen the anime, Gon's dad practically abandoned him. Um, and then there's another thing I could mention, but I'm not. But if you basically make it to the end of the anime, you know exactly what I'm talking about in regards to what happens and, words that are said, actions that took place. But I will give really two reasons as to why. Like, I get the biggest reason why people are going to think Goku is a bad dad is because of the Cell saga, which, just describing this briefly, essentially, Cell, the villain of that series, he was a villain that just insane amounts of power. I believe in the Japanese version at the time they called him a god of destruction. Now, use that very loosely. Um, and so Goku basically decided that to give up, and Gohan was going to fight. And before Gohan started fighting, he gave Cell a senzu bean. And a senzu bean, any physical injuries that you have, if you eat a senzu bean, you're going to heal. And Cell got a huge power boost from that because, his character, he's one of those characters where he is a combination of all of the show's strongest fighters. And so he got super strong with that. So that's a reason, basically, Goku making Gohan fight was one of the reasons why, one of, if not the biggest reason as to why people think Goku is a bad dad. Which, don't get me wrong, I still think it was very stupid and very horrible to subject him to that. But there's one thing I think that some people leave out of the occasion. Goku believed in Gohan to actually win the fight. That's a father having faith in his son, having confidence in his son, which I think that goes overlooked in some people's conversations. Now, I get it. That confidence was misplaced to an extent because it's an enemy that not even Goku could beat. Now, another hot take I know my brother has is that he believes Goku could have defeated Cell, which when he first told me that, I kind of disagreed a little bit. But, over time, I'm like, I kind of agree with you that, Goku possibly could have defeated Cell. I'm not saying outright could have, I'm saying possibly. Because Cell was not using his full strength when he fought Goku. But Goku, leading up to the Cell games, encouraging Gohan to go study, spending time with their family. Um, I'd say that's, a big, like a big thing. He's actually spending time with his family. Now, I get it. Goku, at the end of Dragon Ball Z, the original, went off the train Oob and was gone for several years. I get it. And then also, Goku saved the planet and sacrificed his life so Gohan could live. Like, And at the time, like, you could only be brought back by the Dragon Balls one time. When he got brought back into the story, it was an extreme circumstance that normally would not happen. So he quite literally gave up his life so that his son could live a life that he wants to live, to, be a scholar. And I get it. A lot of fans are like, nah, man, I really like Gohan as a fighter. Like when he defeated Cell, man, he's supposed to be the new hero of the story. Which I get it. I love like Teen Gohan, which I get it. I'm pretty sure he was technically 11 and therefore not a teen, but that's just nitpicking. Great character. I didn't like the, we'll say, nerdy Gohan, or Gohan when it was like, man, what the heck? Is when Frieza came back in Dragon Ball Super Resurrection of F, and he could barely turn into a Super Saiyan. That made me sad. It's like, how do you make such a cool character as a kid just turn like too nerdy? I'm not saying like being a nerd is a bad thing because I'm a nerd, but it's like he's completely unrecognizable. Like if I had looked at Teen Gohan and then that Gohan side by side, and if you told me they're the same character, I would have thought you were lying. I really would have. So hey, maybe was feeling some type of way with that because that was a bit longer of a take. But if I had to say one more in regards to the Goku not being as bad as of a father as he makes him out to be, um, I'd say that like his job, like he in Dragon Ball Super, you see it more. That basically his job, he is a farmer and everything, which I get it. A lot of times he's kind of slacking off and everything, and which I like, bro. Like I'm not gonna say I get it, but it's like not everybody likes going to work, but he quite literally did bring in money for the family, which to help his family, which in turn Gohan was already an adult, so Goku's job was helping Chi Chi and Goten, and so I would not be surprised if some of that money that Goku would have made would have went to Goten studies, despite that 100 million that Mr. Satan had given him because he defeated Boo. But regardless, that's beside the point. My next hot take, which is pretty much the biggest hot take in all of anime, it's dub versus sub. So when I first became interested in anime, I just did not want at first I did not want to watch it in Japanese because I didn't think I'd be able to keep up. I did not think I'd be able to read the subtitles and then, pay attention to the action at the same time. Or, like, in a way, I did not think I'd be able to look away. Like, if I'm watching Dragon Ball, like, as a kid, like, let's just say if I was to look down, like, look away for a minute, I'm still going to know what's happening. But in Japanese, I'm not going to know what's happening because I don't speak the language. But I believe that both are very good. You know what it means? Like if you think sub is better, great. If you think dub is better, great. But also as a perspective from as an American, I'm an African American male, I don't understand why people hate on dub when it's the language you speak. Like that to me is just the one part about the dub versus sub argument I don't think I can ever understand. Like if you're going to think one is better than the other, that's fine. Like there's a video I had saw of a TikToker talking about Dragon Ball Daima with one of the transformation scenes and how he preferred it in sub, aka Japanese, over English, which it was a very valid take. I haven't went back and watched Dragon Ball Daima in English just yet, but when I do, I might come to the same conclusion. He showed the scenes in both English and Japanese to kind of explain the reasoning. But it was a very valid take, and the take was also kind of just based on the technology, like the dubbing of voices, if that makes sense. Like, I guess if you're gonna think of it from like a music perspective, you're gonna have your beat and how your voice might mix with the beat, or like auto tune, like everybody like T-Pain, first artist that comes to mind with auto tune, with like how he's gonna mix his own voice with auto tune, even though that T-Pain, he's a goat, he does not need auto tune. But I believe you know, people should not be judged over how they watch anime. Now, like, I got to a point where my life where I was like, man, you watch this anime in this language when it's better than that one? I was like, nah. Like, I think if anything, I have preferences as to which animes I might like to watch in what languages. And also, one of the other reasons why I'll also watch animes in sub, I have a TikTok account. I'm well aware of how quickly stuff gets spoiled on TikTok. Like I last summer when the Deadpool and Wolverine movie came out, I remember telling my dad, I was like, I want to go see this movie with you. And, I don't want to wait too long because I'm going to get spoiled. Because the two movies that I've had spoiled, one because of social media, The other, not because of it. The one because of social media, The Force Awakens, Star Wars, when Star Wars came back. Long story short, I just remember it was like December. I was underneath an Instagram post about LeBron James. Now I get it, Disney owns ESPN, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But I really did not expect the spoiler of that movie to be in the comments of a LeBron James Instagram post. And also keep in mind, when The Force Awakens came out, I believe it came out in 2016, I would have been 15 years old. What I know at 23 is way different from what I know at 15. I'd like to think slash hope. Number two would have been the movie Logan, and that is with another person spoiling the movie for me. Um, so I just know that certain movies I want to go see, I need to see them quickly because social media can't let you have any sort of happiness, despite what it may seem. So I went to go see it with my dad. I might have been like it was a weekday. I think it was like a Tuesday, maybe a Thursday. We went to go see. Actually, no, it was a Saturday. We went to go see it like a Saturday morning, and then go see it. We kind of because he goes on because he does some work. I think I just go back home, maybe maybe just kind of chill because after a movie, I'm a little tired. I want to because I'm sitting down. Um, I kid you not. Right after the movie, I'm getting scenes on my TikTok of that movie, and you know, uh, just lots of scenes from that movie. I'm like, bro, I quite literally just got out of this movie 10 minutes ago. How am I seeing spoilers of it on TikTok? It was almost the same with Spider-Man. Um, when No Way Home, when all three of the Spider-Mans were together, there were some scenes that I was seeing, but I got to scroll past them quick enough because like I don't want to get spoiled. And so, I just think it was crazy. But Dragon Ball Z and My Hero Academia are my favorite two animes to watch in English. I think their English cast for both are just amazing. I'd say 10 out of 10. Another one which I would also put on that list is Attack on Titan. The Attack on Titan English cast is pretty freaking great. And I understand that a lot of casts in English, they're gonna have like some carryover. Like for example, and this goes into my next point, a lot of people don't like sub because the Japanese voice actors sound too feminine, which that might not be the overall take that you would see on the internet. Which a lot of the voice actors that you have in English are also voiced by women. For example, Monkey D. Luffy, the main character in One Piece, is also the voice actor of Teen Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Colleen Clickenbeard voices both. She also voices Momo Yaoyorozu in My Hero Academia. Also this is just to name a character who's a girl. Um, Kid Goku, and I mean Goku when he was legitimately a kid, and then back in Daima, Stephanie Nadaloni, I believe that's how you pronounce it in the name, and probably one of the more famous female voice actors is the voice of Naruto, Meili Flanagan. I believe, I don't know if it's Meili or Miley. I think it's Meili. So please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Those are just three specific examples. I picked those three because those are probably some of the more popular characters that people would know. Like for example, Goku. He gets a float, I think at Thanksgiving pretty much every year. Um Naruto and One Piece are in the big three. I didn't name Ichigo because he's voiced by I can't think of his name right now, but he was voiced the English voice of the main character in the anime Devil Man May Cry. But y'all know who I'm talking about. Just his name is not coming to mind. Uh, but yeah, but to talk about the anime I prefer to watch in Japanese, it's gonna be Naruto. I was not the biggest fan of the Naruto in English, but I grew to like it and appreciate it just because I you got to think of how long it probably takes for them to do the things that they do. Now, there's only a few animes where like I'll hear some of the behind the scenes voice acting for. By that I mean, I guess what it's like to be in the studio. Like there's only one anime where I can think of where it's like you get like a sneak peek of them in the studio. In the Battle of Gods adaptation of Dragon Ball Z, when you see the actual animated fight, then in the bottom left you see Goku's voice actor, when Goku's on the screen, going through like the battle noises, and then the voice actor of Beerus doing the same thing, which that is cool. I have not really seen any of the animes do something like that. The exception being Attack on Titan, with the Japanese voice actor for what's her name? What's her name? Hanji. Um, her going through some of her more iconic scenes, which I think, just in general, I think if you're not going to like to watch something Japanese just because the character sounds too feminine. I don't think that's fair because in English, there's a also the voice actor of Killua. I cannot think of her name at the moment. I don't have it in my notes. I apologize, but somebody please put it down in the comments. All I do know is that she was also the voice of the pig in the Seven Deadly Sins. I cannot think of the pig's name. I apologize. That just came to mind, so that's just me going off script a little bit. So the next one. So I was talking about this with my brother and Kevin the other day. By this, I don't mean this exact topic, but I more so mean this anime, Attack on Titan. Um, I remember when Attack on Titan, when the manga originally ended, a lot of people hated the ending. A lot of people did. Now, I get it. I've never read the manga, and I understand that something in the manga doesn't always make it to the anime. I understand that. But I have seen the anime ending, which I am not going to describe it just because Attack on Titan is a beloved anime across people who are anime fans. And so, if anybody from watching my videos, whether it be the video games or, the podcast episodes, I try my best to keep spoilers out of it. I understand with Dragon Ball Z, I was being more descriptive because it's an older anime, and by older I mean older than even me. So that being the one anime where I did not feel as bad describing that scene. But if I was to tell you how Attack on Titan ended, I understand that it's been a few years since it's ended, but people would be mad at me, and I understand rightfully so. But regardless, the things I said about Dragon Ball Z would not ruin your experience watching it. Uh, I don't think it was as bad. Was it my favorite ending ever? No. Do I think it was like made sense and everything? Yes. Um, in which this also just came to mind, me going off script. There's only one anime where the ending was like, I understand why people don't like the ending, and that is Death Note. I understand why people would not like the ending to that. I understand. I liked the ending. I did myself. I'm avoiding going too much into the reason as to why I like it, just because I know there are people listening that might not have seen it, and I don't want to spoil it for them because make I'm trying to be considerate, but I liked the ending. I understand the frustrations of those who did not like the ending. Now, for those of you who have seen the ending, and you're probably gonna type in the comments, Jaren, how did you like the ending to Death Note? You can reach out to me. I'll explain to you. I'll even hop on a phone call. You can FaceTime me, and I'll explain to you why I at least liked it. Um, but again, the dislike for it, I understand. I do. I truly do. Um, so going into the next one, we're gonna talk about a more current such popular anime, Solo Leveling. Um, really, just the hot take I had with this one is it's a simple story, but it's not a bad thing. Not everything has to be overly complicated. Now, for example, in regards to what's an overcomplicated anime. Now, I don't know if this one is just me or if it's everybody. I cannot explain to you how the powers in Jujutsu Kaisen work. Like I get, there's also the quote of Gojo talking about how cursed energy works. I cannot recite it, even though that it's something that you would see a lot. But there's certain people with specific abilities that I cannot explain to you how it works. It's one of those things where I know how it works. I can't explain it to you because then I would confuse myself. That's what I mean by it doesn't have to be overly complicated. Like Demon Slayer is another perfect example. That it doesn't have a complicated story. It's simple. It's kind of goes straight to the point, and beautiful animation. People love it. Solo leveling, I get it. A lot of people in anime will call Jinwoo an aura farmer, and I get it. I would also agree. But I don't think there's anything wrong with just liking animes where literally the main characters just throw hands. I mean, that is also a decent portion of Dragon Ball Z. Like, yeah, there's a lot of fighting. Um, the next hot take, because I just mentioned Dragon Ball Z, I guess I had the most hot takes about Dragon Ball Z. For those who've said they don't like Dragon Ball Z because of the plot, if you say that it doesn't have the best plot, then I'd agree with you. But I feel like if you were to say it has no plot, it undermines some of the character development, like people like Piccolo, Vegeta have gone through. And like, if you want to go even further back, you can say Tien, you can say Yamcha, you can say Bulma, um, you can say Gohan because Gohan from a kid to where the anime, the manga is now, two completely different people. I think it kind of undermines the character development that people have gone through. So I'm going to talk about the first three arcs in Dragon Ball Z just as my examples, but there's more examples. But I will also say that Dragon Ball Z's plot is simple, but like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with a simple plot. Um, the Saiyan Saga, which this one the plot isn't as intensive as the next two. You got basically the Z fighters, they're trying to stop the Saiyan invasion, as you know, because the two Saiyans who are coming to the planet, they're trying to wish for immortality. So they're trying to protect their home. The Frieza saga. This arc has a lot of plot to it. I don't care what anybody says. Essentially, Goku versus Frieza. Goku is trying to defeat the man that made the Saiyan race extinct. And I get it, that is a very vague description. But there is a lot of background behind the statement that I had just said. A lot. Like me even explaining that as vaguely as possible. There's way more to it. And then the Android and Cell saga. Dr. Gero, the doctor of the Red Ribbon Army, Goku had defeated, destroyed that army when he was a kid. But Dr. Gero is trying to exact revenge on Goku through some of his creations, which, again, that is a revenge story. There's plot to it. Now, again, is it the best plot in the world? No. But is it good? Can it maintain people's attention? Yes. Because I would imagine that, let's just say, out of a lot of the anime watchers in the world, you either going to A, have seen some of Dragon Ball Z, or B, you probably have at least seen it up until maybe Dragon Ball Super. That is of those of you who are anime fans and have given the show a chance. But the overall point, which is more accurate than the others, you're at least going to know one thing about Dragon Ball, and that is Goku as a whole. Um, and also, I just came up with another hot take. When you think of anime in general, what would you like if you had to show somebody one picture to get them to get into anime? What would you show them? Or what would you say is some of the more iconic things in anime? Yeah, that'll be the question. I'm gonna keep yap for a minute because I want the few of you who know me and my anime takes, well, what you're going to think I'm going to say. You think you got it? I'm gonna give you one more second just to extend the time just a little bit. The most iconic things in anime that I can think of, number one is a Pokeball. Number two is Pikachu. Pikachu and the Pokeballs in general are way more iconic than Dragon Ball Z. I'd say the closest thing in Dragon Ball Z that would come to the peak, like the Pokemon level of iconic, is the Super Saiyan transformation. Like, and specifically the Super Saiyan transformation. There are a couple other things in anime that are more iconic, like the Sailor Moon transformation sequence. I'd say that should go on a list of like one of the top five like most like iconic things like in anime. Um, but hey, and yes, also Pokemon is an anime. It is not a cartoon. I just really have two more hot takes, really. We're getting close to 30 minutes on this episode. I hope you all are enjoying so far. And also, we reached 50 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. I am about 12 days away for it to have been 1 year of posting on YouTube, and that is just awesome. So leave a like for, if you've been here since day one, which I get it, day one was video game clips, but again, if you've been here since day one, I appreciate you. Um, the next one. Almost every anime has the power of friendship in some way. Now, when I think of the power of friendship, my mind immediately goes to fairy tale. It does. It really does. Like the importance of friendship in that anime is also just a core aspect of the show. It's like you don't mess with the people that we care about, sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm the same way. I don't like it when people mess with the people that I care about. But the people I care about have to fight their own battles because I can't fight their battles for them. And also, I won't do that. Um, I will give a few examples as to the power of friendship in other animes. Goku turning Super Saiyan. It is an example of the power of friendship, even though that, yes, it is a much more darker example of the power of friendship. I'd say Dragon Ball Z has, that in its show. It's just like very buried. People don't think that the power of friendship would be associated with Dragon Ball. Another one I'm going to say is My Hero Academia. I have one scene specifically in mind, and it deals with a few, actually, quite a few. I'll just name the two characters, and those of you who have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The main character is Zuko Midoriya and his rival, Bakugo. The power of friendship is real. And also just Class 1A as a whole. You know, that whole class where, yeah, some of the characters might not admit that they are friends, but they all care about each other in some way or another. So the power of friendship is real. That's just three examples. Do I think the power of friendship can be overbearing? In Fairy Tale, I'm gonna say yes because it's quite literally repetitive. Like, but again, like I said earlier, it is quite literally a whole point of their show. Like they are quite literally, even though they might not all be blood related, they are quite literally a family. Um, and then the last hot take, I have not seen this anime specifically, season three, but I'm talking about Fire Force with too much fan service. How it can be a bad thing. Um, I'm just saying that because RDC had a skit where it was like when you're watching anime alone, and I believe they showed like Goku fighting Frieza. Then when somebody walks into the room, it's a much more adult, inappropriate moment type of thing. All I can say about Fire Force in that example is that there is one character, I believe her name is Tamaki, where basically somehow she just ends up in the most inappropriate, stances, positions, however you want to phrase it. Um, so I think that can definitely be weird. It might turn some people off from watching Fire Force. It is still on my list of animes that I need to go and watch because even taking out the fan service in Fire Force, I enjoyed the first two seasons. I think it was great. And another one, which I'm pose this in the form of a question: Fairy Tale, is that does that show have fan service? And by that I mean a lot of anime are like this, not just Fairy Tale, but it is more noticeable to me in Fairy Tale just how the female characters are animated and or drawn. That is just me. That is my question to the comments below. And if you are unfamiliar, just quite literally Google characters in Fairy Tale and you'll see the genuine point. Another character anime that just came to mind, which is not as bad as say like Fairy Tale, if that is fan service, and uh Fire Force, sorry I had a blank for a second, is One Piece. There's only really two characters that come to mind, and there's only like two scenes that come to mind. Since my brother is watching One Piece, I am not going to say the two scenes that come to mind. All I'm actually no, there's a third character, Sanji. Those three characters. Which if you know, you know. I don't want to spoil the anime for anybody. In regards to that matter, but I think I've had enough hot takes. I was going to read off a list on CBR, and yes, I get it. Not a lot of people like that website. I understand. But I was going to try to react to some of those, but maybe I'll save that for a future episode. So let me know down in the comments what you think of some of my hot takes, and let me know if you would like to maybe come and argue against some of my hot takes, because maybe you disagree with my take about Goku, which completely valid. Maybe you disagree with some like what I said about solo leveling, or maybe what I said about my hero. Again, if you want to come and argue against me, we can have a debate style episode. But I just want to thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.